Have you ever wondered why two people can look at the same situation and walk away believing completely different stories? Why one person sees opportunity while another sees danger? Why someone feels loved while another feels ignored, even when nothing objectively changed? What if I told you it's not the world that's different? It's the world inside you. Your reality isn't real. Your reality is a hallucination. And the craziest part, you hallucinate it every single second, and you don't even notice. Before you reject this, consider something simple. Your eyes. Don't they show you the world? They show you electrical signals. Your brain interprets those signals, and that interpretation is what you call reality. But interpretation is never neutral. It's influenced, manipulated, filtered, shaped by memories you forgot, fears you deny, and stories you keep repeating because they feel familiar. Are you starting to see the issue? Think about the last argument you had. You swore you were right. The other person swore they were right. How can two people be right about the exact same moment? That alone should tell you something powerful. Reality is not a fact. Reality is a negotiation, and your brain is the one doing the negotiating. But how does this hallucination actually work? Let's start with something uncomfortable. Your brain lies to you for your own protection. It hides information. It exaggerates threats. It downplays opportunities. It creates shortcuts to help you survive. But survival isn't the same thing as truth. And the survival system you inherited from ancient ancestors is terrible at dealing with the modern world. Your brain evolved to keep you alive in the jungle, not to help you thrive in a city, in a relationship, in a job, or on social media. So it keeps hallucinating danger. It keeps hallucinating judgment. It keeps hallucinating worst-case scenarios, even when they don't exist. Ever notice how one bad comment online feels louder than 100 compliments? That's not reality. That's your hallucination, optimized for survival, not happiness. Let me prove it to you with something simple. Your blind spots. Your eyes have a literal blind spot in the middle of your vision, but you don't see a hole in your sight. Why? Because your brain fills it in. It invents the missing information, and it does this all day long, not only with sight, but with meaning, with identity, with emotion, with expectations. You're constantly walking through a world your brain is guessing. Still think you're seeing the truth. Now consider this. You don't experience the world, you experience your model of the world. And no two models are the same. If you grew up with a strict family, your model probably prioritizes responsibility. If you grew up around chaos, your model probably prioritizes safety. If you grew up without affection, your model probably interprets neutral behavior as rejection. Same situation, different hallucinations. This is why one person hears, "We need to talk," and instantly feels panic, while another simply wonders what the conversation will be about. It's not the words. It's not the tone. It's the hallucination behind the words. Your brain doesn't see the conversation. It sees your past speaking to you. And that brings us to the most dangerous truth of all. Your brain doesn't show you what's real. It shows you what you expect to be real. Think about how many times you assumed someone was upset with you when they weren't. Or how many times you thought you failed before even trying. Or how many opportunities you ignored because you had already convinced yourself they weren't meant for you. That's not intuition. That's prediction. And the prediction is based on old data. When you walk into a room, you don't see people. You see patterns. You see your history projected onto their faces. Someone raises an eyebrow. And your brain doesn't evaluate the movement objectively. It compares it to every raised eyebrow you've ever seen. Maybe it matches the memory of someone judging you, so you hallucinate judgment, even if the person was simply thinking. That's how fast your hallucination works. And here's something even more shocking. Your emotions aren't reactions, they're interpretations. You don't feel scared because something is dangerous. You feel scared because your brain decided it's dangerous. You don't feel rejected because someone ignored you. You feel rejected because your brain interpreted that silence as rejection. Two different people can experience the exact same moment with completely different emotional realities. That should terrify you and empower you. Because if you can reinterpret, you can rewire. If you can rewire, you can reshape. If you can reshape, you can rebuild your entire reality. Think about placebos. A sugar pill with 0 active ingredients can reduce pain, improve mood, and even help the body heal. Why? Because the brain hallucinates the effect it expects. The body reacts to the belief, not the pill. If belief can heal, imagine what belief can destroy. Imagine how many of your limitations are created not by what exists, but by what you think exists. And here's the part most people never hear. Hallucinations aren't glitches. They're features. Your brain uses them to simplify a world too complex to fully understand. The problem is when the simplifications become chains, when the shortcuts become prisons. When your hallucination becomes so convincing, you forget it's a hallucination. So how do you break out of it? Let's start with a story. There was a man who believed he was unlucky. Every job he lost, every relationship that failed, every opportunity that slipped away reinforced the same narrative. I'm cursed. Nothing ever works for me. He interpreted every neutral event as proof of his curse. He walked into rooms expecting rejection. He approached life expecting loss. Eventually, people avoided him not because he was unlucky, but because his energy was heavy. Employers sensed his hopelessness. Friends felt drained by his pessimism, and every time something went wrong, he said, "See, I knew it." But something subtle was happening. He wasn't unlucky. He was hallucinating the identity of an unlucky man. And because he hallucinated it, he acted like it. And because he acted like it, people responded to it. His hallucination shaped his behavior. His behavior shaped his results. And his results reinforced the hallucination. That's how powerful the loop is. You don't live in reality. You live in whatever loop your brain believes. But here's the twist. The same loop can work in your favor. Think about confident people. They aren't confident because life treated them perfectly. They're confident because they hallucinate the identity of someone who belongs. That hallucination changes how they walk, how they speak, how they take risks, how they handle rejection, and how they attract opportunities. Their belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Confidence isn't a trait. It's a hallucination with good PR. Still believe your reality is fixed. Let's go deeper. Your brain constantly predicts your future, not based on potential, but based on memory. If you failed at something 3 times, your brain predicts a 4th failure. If you were hurt in the past, your brain predicts future pain. If you were ignored, your brain predicts that no one cares. But prediction is not destiny. Prediction is a shortcut, and shortcuts can be Consider this. Imagine meeting someone new. You think they don't like you. But is that true, or are you hallucinating an old wound? Maybe you grew up feeling like you didn't fit in. Maybe you felt invisible. Maybe you were judged. And now you hallucinate that same experience onto every new person you meet. If your reality is shaped by your past, you're not living in the present. You're living in a memory with better graphics. Let's push this even further. Your goals, hallucinations, your insecurities, hallucinations, your limits, hallucinations. All of them projections of assumptions your brain created long before you learned how powerful you actually are. But here's the part that changes everything. If your brain can hallucinate fear, it can hallucinate courage. If it can hallucinate obstacles, it can hallucinate solutions. If it can hallucinate limits, it can hallucinate possibilities. And you might be wondering, if this is true, how do I actually take control? The answer is simple. Challenge the prediction. When your brain tells you they don't like you, ask, is this evidence? Or is this memory? When your brain says you're going to fail, ask, is this truth? Or is this fear wearing a lab coat? When your brain whispers you're not enough, ask, according to who? A moment that happened years ago. Your brain isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to protect you. But protection becomes a prism when you don't question it. Let me give you a real example. Two people apply for a job. One says, I probably won't get it. There are better candidates. The other says, I'm exactly what they need. They just don't know it yet. Same resume, same skills, different hallucinations. Guess who gets the job? Not the better candidate. The one with the stronger hallucination. That's the power of perception. That's the power of belief. That's the power of choosing your hallucination instead of being ruled by it. And there is something even more fascinating. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. When you visualize success, your brain fires the same neural networks as if you actually succeeded. When you imagine rejection, your body produces stress hormones as if you were rejected. Your hallucinations shape your biology. That's how deep this goes. So what does this mean for your life? It means you're not stuck. Not broken. You're not limited. You're simply running an old hallucination. One you didn't choose. One you inherited. One you can outgrow, but only if you become conscious of it. The moment you realize your thoughts aren't facts, you take back power. The moment you realize feelings aren't truth, you take back control. The moment you realize perception isn't reality, you begin to rewrite your story. And your story is the foundation of everything. Your relationships, your confidence, your success, your future. So let me ask you something dangerous. What hallucination have you been living in? The hallucination of not enough. The hallucination of unlovable. The hallucination of too late. The hallucination of impossible. What would happen if just for one day you hallucinated the opposite? What if you hallucinated confidence? What if you hallucinated purpose? What if you hallucinated being chosen, being capable, being powerful? How different would your life look? You don't need permission to rewrite your reality. You just need awareness. Because once you see the hallucination, you can't unsee it. Your brain will always hallucinate. That's its nature. But whether it hallucinates fear or possibility, that's your choice. So the next time you wake up feeling behind, remember that feeling is a prediction, not a truth. The next time you feel like everyone has something you don't, remind yourself you're comparing your reality to their highlight reel, another hallucination. The next time you think you can't change, remember that you already hallucinate your life every day. Why not hallucinate something better. And if you want to go even deeper into how your mind shapes your world, make sure you're part of this community. Because once you learn how to control your perception, everything else becomes negotiable. Your reality is a hallucination, but now you're awake.